I just invite you to, as you look at this image here and listen to the sound of it as well, also feeling your experience of this image and your experience of this sound, which is captured beautifully in the image itself, which is, wow, as you feel your experience sitting wherever you're sitting, even what you call sitting, that's what you're doing right now. Maybe you're standing or walking, who knows? Whatever you're doing, you might describe as sitting or walking or lying down, meditating or whatever. Notice that, like the river, there's this flow, this unstoppable flow, isn't there? There's nothing at all static. Feel that. So the river of your experience, this flow of experiencing, is constantly changing, isn't it? The way it moves, the way it undulates. The direction it seems to go, the shape it seems to take. All of this is constant change. It's not like your experience appears in a particular way, and then that particular way experience has appeared, then transforms into another way that it appears, and then that transforms. It's not like that, is it? Just feel your experience and notice that it is not something changing, it is just absolute change, for lack of a better way to characterize the ceaseless flowing of what is. And seeing this is so powerful and upends really everything we think about life. And I mean that literally. Because thinking about what's here, rendering what's here, reifying what's here seemingly, like this is what it is, right? This is what we do. We're describing things. We're describing phenomena. We're describing the world and experiences and ourselves and how we are in relationship to the experiences and to others and to the world and events and on, right? All of this describing rests upon the, you could say, fundamental presumption, assumption that there's something there that can be described, right? I mean, we take it for granted, don't we? Because we just carry on describing the world as if we're actually describing something that can be described. So as you feel the flow of your experience right now, like the river that it is, the river of constant, ceaseless movement, it seems to be, this flowing forth of the moment, this flowing forth of reality. How can you possibly pin down what it is in order to talk about what it is in any kind of really true way that matches your experience? You cannot do it, can you? Because here it is flowing, and then I want you to describe what's actually here as a thing that you're encountering as an experience. Whatever label you might imagine you can place on top of this moment, about the way it seems to be, about where you seem to be, about who you seem to be, all of it is just gone. It would be like if you looked at the image here that we're viewing, this video of the river, and you look at a place in the river and try to pinpoint what that is. It's not there for any time, is it? It's just it's constantly disappearing as you try to pinpoint it with your vision, right? It's just gone. You feel your experience, how much your experience is just like this. If you think about a wave, that's cresting, and then eventually the wave crashes, it's rising up, it's cresting, and then it sort of collapses, and you could say uh, lands somewhere in a sense, lands in a particular way. And it's like the moment is like this constant cresting, but the moment never becomes something. The river never stops. It's not like that, is it? Oh, it finally stopped moving, so I can describe it. It's like this. You can kind of see the shape of it and the texture of it. And there's a spot that's I can look at it, I can kind of stare at it, I can get to know that that particular detail. In some ways, I can explore it, I can study it. But when it comes to our experience, can't do it. It's remarkable um, that we perceive anything in a sense because there aren't really things. There's just this ceaseless flow, which that sounds like I just named a thing. I just gave it a label. I called it a flow, as if it's a thing that you could describe. But it's so transcendental that I can't describe it as a flow either, because that's what's a flow. I cannot reify this. I cannot resolve. You feel that in your experience, how you cannot resolve what it is? Really let that sink in. You cannot pin this down. But you don't have to pin it down. Why do we need to pin it down? Why do we need to know what it is? Why do we need to collapse this into something fixed and identifiable? Do we need to do that? Well, we can't do it. So that's, I guess, one answer to that question. We may wish we could pin it down, describe the way that it is precisely. The other thing I love about this image, and it's very true to the river of our experience right now, is this ceaseless, ungraspable, unnameable flow that never resolves as something that we can pin down, right? Because of its ceaseless, fluid, morphing nature. It's never the same, right? From instant to instant, the flow of your experience, each moment shows up in whatever ways it seems to be showing up. It seems to be distinct, and then it's distinct. It's just right. It's never repeating itself. It's always diverging from itself, deviating from, you could say, the previous version of it, right? The river is just never flowing the same way, right? It's always a little bit different, even if subtly. Watch any portion of the river and notice the way it's moving right now in this image, and see how, wow, it's just, wow, you can see how it's constantly different, isn't it? And yet it's always the river, isn't it? It's always the river. Even though this thing we're calling the river is never the same, and in that sense, there's not a river. You see? Not at least a river that you could describe, because, and this is like our experience. It's always experience, no matter how it's looking. It's always, you could say, reality. It's always life. It's always this. And so no particular way the moment is showing up is more of this. It's always this reality flowing. So you can completely relax any effort to try to shape your reality in a particular way to match whatever you think you might like it to be, or it should be, or is evidence of its divinity or specialness or extraordinariness. It's like it is all the absolute, no matter what it looks like, just like it is all the river, no matter the shape it's taking. And this is just, it never leaves itself. It always is itself. The river never loses itself and becomes something other than the river. It's always the river, no matter that it's constant change. And it's just a beautiful metaphor for our experience. And it can be easy as we explore, experience in this way to, without even recognizing this, have this subtle or not so subtle sense that we're standing outside of it somehow, noticing it. But notice how when you feel the flow of experience, the river of your experience, its ceaseless dynamism, that there's 0 degrees of separation between you and the river. You are the river of this reality, this flow, this flowing forth of reality. There's no separation. 0 degrees of separation. The perceiver, you might imagine yourself to be perceiving your experience right now, perceiving this visual image. Whatever you're perceiving is not over there, it's here. Everything is here, 0 degrees of separation. It transcends space, doesn't it? There's no space, there's no here and there. There's no location to the perception. Is there? Or you could say it's everywhere. The current perception is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Because there's no separation. We are this ceaseless, ever-changing love. And it's never lost because the flow is what exists. You might imagine you're sitting in, say, a room, and that the room is somehow an object that's not changing, right? But feel your experience of wherever you imagine yourself to be, that you might be thinking of as having a kind of stability to it, unlike the river. But actually, notice that your perception of where you are is exactly like the river, isn't it? Perception is constantly flowing and changing, even in the subtlest of ways, isn't it? You feel that? And your perception, your experience of everything is this dynamism. In that sense, there's no stability whatsoever. The stability is imagined. I imagine the room I'm sitting in is holding still, but how do I know there's a room here? Because I'm perceiving the room. But what's happening is that in a way we overlook the dynamism of experiencing to create a seemingly stable, objective world of the forms of life, both inner and outer forms. But the forms are constantly forming, like the river. The river never becomes a certain form. It's just constantly unfolding, never assuming a form. You feel that? This is the transcendent nature of experience. And it's always that way. That's its aliveness, its dynamism. Can't stop the change. You can't hold anything in place. You can't stop reality from transcending itself in every instant. It's inherently transcendental of all the ways we imagine it to be, all the